We're live at the largest Honda store in the world, celebrating Schaumburg Honda's grand opening with Rohrman Automotive Group.
Ryan, we're finally here.
Yeah.
You're in the store, you had the ribbon cutting, you had the big party and the celebration. What's it feel like to see this come full circle?
It's really surreal. It's there's a level of emotion, to be honest, just because of my grandfather's connection with this store specifically. And then I have a connection with this store. We do grand openings when I have 7 projects going on right now. So we'll do a party, not like this. This is a special one. And they're fun. When I go home, it's great. I will think about this one for days because of the emotional connection I had with my grandfather. And I lived with him. When I was in college in 05 and 06, he lived 30 minutes from here, and I would live in his basement, and he'd wait for me every night when I got home from selling cars. And the car business was different. So we'd work till 10 or 11 o'clock at night. He'd wait up for me. I'd get home at midnight, and he'd be like, "Hey, babe, how'd it go?" And I was like, "Grandpa, what are you doing up?" He's like, "Well, I'm waiting for you." So we'd talk till 1 in the morning, and he'd just walk me through your car deal. So we'd walk through it, and all those memories come back when I'm here at Schaumburg Honda. My grandfather, small town dealer out of Lafayette, Indiana. His first big jump in the Chicago market was this store. 1984, he got the ticket. 1985, we opened it up. He opened it up. And deep roots. The mayor of Schaumburg just came to me. He goes, "Hey, do you know what village in all of Illinois sells the most cars?" And I was like, "Well, when I lived here in Schaumburg," goes, "It's still Schaumburg." And he's like, "It's because of your grandfather." And I was like, "That's awesome." So.
And they'll just keep coming.
Yeah.
Those stories, right?
Yeah. So it's deep emotional roots, with this store and this market. So it's been a really awesome evening. I don't know how to explain it. It's just the whole Rohrman family showed up. I think there's probably 50 Rohrmans here.
Wow.
So that doesn't happen that often. So.
Well, to meet some of
cool.
your family members this evening and get to chat with them about the impact that your grandfather had, but then also to meet with your team members and the impact that he's had on them for over 20 years. Family goes a lot further than blood, and you all are doing a phenomenal job. Getting to see that tonight was so special.
It is special. My grandfather had a huge heart for people. He was a hard guy, but he loved people well. When you needed help, he'd show up. And so a lot of these people, I knew the video tonight would kind of be that heart pull a little bit.
That's right.
Hearing his iconic laugh, and, he had that larger than life personality. He never did a car commercial in a suit where he just stood there. He dressed up as Superman, as Darth Vader. The stuff he did was crazy. And the people who knew him well, which a lot of them were here tonight.
Yeah.
They knew he was a goofball. He was a goof. He never took himself that serious, and he knew how to have fun, and he loved the car business. He loved the car business. One of my favorite sayings that he said was, he never worked a day in his life.
Yeah.
People are like, "Yeah, and you work all the time." He goes, "Me? No, I'd never worked a day in my life."
Yeah.
He goes, "I love what I do." So that was just that was him.
Yeah.
And I feel like this is a celebration of him. This was, it was interesting. I was on a podcast, and they're like, "Ryan, we don't understand why you'd build a store so big when it seems like your mindset is new age and everything's smaller, efficient." And I was like, "It's because this was my grandfather's blueprints. He started this building. This is what he wanted. So we just finished it. So this was the last store that he touched, and it took a long time to build with COVID and everything else. So it's, he started it in like 2016, 17, and 8 years later he finished it.
Yeah. But it's so cool because we have Matt, you have Honda Pro Jason that started in 96, you started in 05, Chase started in 07 at that Honda store, and now to kind of see this come full circle, and you had Lou who has been working on this with your late grandpa for 15 years.
It's crazy. Yeah, I mean, it's even like, because I cut my teeth with Honda, the zone manager with American Honda, Josh Beckner, he was my rep when I was the general manager. So I ran into him tonight and I was like, hey, remember when you used to give me a hard time for like truly, when I was at Schaumburg Honda, I saw probably six different blueprints for what Schaumburg Honda could be someday.
Yeah.
And Honda, they were very gracious. We were selling so many cars. They weren't overbearing, but they were like, when are you going to build that thing? And I was like, hey, we did it.
What was the big delay? I mean, obviously, when you did it this round, there was COVID and there was all of that. But what about all those years before? We heard it was like the best recruiting strategy ever for like the last 20 years. Hey, guess what? Don't worry about it. We got a beautiful new store on the way, but that's been going on. So what was that gap?
I mean, we definitely used that. I honestly think a lot of it was we were so big. Like, we were the largest Honda store in the Midwest for, I think they said 24 years. So when I ran the store, we were number one. We were selling out of that little, like, if you guys haven't gone down there, where Kia's at now, that is what he built in 85, and it hasn't changed since 85. I mean, we put some paint on the walls. I think I redid the bathrooms when I was there. That's it. We were selling 300 new cars a month and 180 used cars a month. It's like, why would you change? Like,
it was part of the appeal.
It's part of it's
the experience.
Yeah.
But now this is the experience.
This is the new experience, and so it's, I don't know, it's kind of a cool story that the original store never changed, and now 40 years later, this is what it is. So,
it's just so cool to see this vision and this dream. Your grandpa had this big personality.
He did.
Larger than life.
Yes.
And then just going through and making these plans, and then in 2018, walk us through that. So 2018, he had a stroke.
Yeah.
He passed away in 2020, but those last 2 years of his life where he really passed things over to you.
Yeah.
I mean, to continue the project, to you take over the reins.
Yeah.
Man. Like, you're in the store now. It's nuts.
That's, I think, the emotion of the evening. Like, all these things are passing through my head tonight, even down to, like, 2018. It was April 1st. It was a Sunday. And I was in the hospital with him. And at that time, I oversaw Chicago. So we had 14 stores, I think, in Chicagoland at that time. And my dad was in the room. So it was my dad, myself, and Grandpa. I said, hey, Grandpa, how you doing? And he said, hey, before you say anything else, and he grabbed my hand, and he said, it's your time. And I was like, what? Time for what? He goes, it's your time to take over. And I said, Grandpa, you're going to be fine. He goes, no. He's like, I will be fine, but I need you to tell me that you'll do it. And I said, Grandpa, I will tell you yes, because I want you to come back and I want you to get through this. And he goes, promise me yes, and I'll be just fine. I said, okay, I promise. And like, I looked at my dad and I was just like, did that just happen? And like, I've played that over in my head so many times, and it was like, everything inside of me wanted my grandfather to come back, and he never did. He struggled, for the next couple of years, but everyone got to have a sweet relationship with him through that time. But that very next day, it's time to go, and the platform that he built, it was great, and he set it up for success. he teed it up for success. And then, this is so much bigger than a one-person thing. It takes a village, and so from day one it was build, culture, like what we were talking about. Like what do we want to be? Who is the Rohrman Automotive Group when it comes down to like the customer experience and everything else? And we owned it. I mean, team effort, we owned it from day one, and it's not where we want it to be yet. We're still going there, but that's what we're working towards. And yeah, I feel like in some odd way, this is like a culmination of a lot of things, and I don't know. It's I can't think of the right words to describe it, but I'm kind of sad. I'm kind of happy. It's been good. It's been good. So, but
I can only imagine how that feels. So, like if your grandpa Bob was here today, what would he say? I know what the first word would be. It'd be babe. But like, what would the rest be?
I'm surprised we haven't gotten more babes tonight, by the way. I was warned that is the word of the evening. I've only gotten it from you.
He loved it. Yeah, he'd go, ooh, babe. And he would love this. He is, for me, my personality, this is a stretch for me. Like, doing all this, like, I'm more happy that some of this is over than anything, but I enjoy it. Like, it was great. He'd be down there right now. Like, we would hear his laugh if he was here. From standing up here over the music, you would hear his belly laugh echoing out, telling stories. He would love this. I mean, he loved building big stores. So his last 3 stores were huge. I mean, you've seen the Toyota store in Lafayette. It makes no sense to build a store that big in the city of Lafayette, Indiana. I don't know if you've seen the Lexus store.
We just got the whole rundown on the yearbook of Lexus and what we had to do that.
Oh, my word.
And so I asked Lou, I said, are you ready to build the next largest Honda store in the world? And he was like, I could use a break.
And then this was his blueprints. I mean, like this, honestly, like this, he started this. When I took it over, the precast for the shop was up, and this was just some steel framing. And I looked at it, I was like, oh man, I haven't done a project like this before, so it was a big undertaking.
It was a good learning lesson for the next round. I mean, you did a fabulous job this time, so imagine the next one.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like we're doing projects all the time. I don't know if we'll ever do anything like this again. Like this is so crazy, but I do think it's cool. I mean, if you're going to do it, doing it for Honda, great brand, doing it in Schaumburg, arguably the best in the Midwest. This could be the best village to be in to do it.
Yeah.
So it makes sense from that perspective. If you're going to do it here.
Yeah.
So,
I'm curious what elements of the project you think your grandfather has left his mark in, and what are those Easter eggs, things that you'll look at that you'll know were just very him?
I know for sure he loved the balcony. You know a store my grandfather is really involved in if it has a balcony. We have some other ones with balconies. He loved the balcony because every now and then you could catch him, not during the day normally. Like my grandfather, his internal clock was wild. He would not go home most nights until after 9 o'clock. But at 9 o'clock, he'd undo his tie. He wore a suit and tie every day. He'd undo his tie, and he'd lean over the balcony and just kind of take it in. I don't know what he'd look at, but he'd look, and you could go stand next to him, and he would hold you in a conversation for as long as you would stand there. And he did it at Lafayette Toyota. He did it at the Lexus store. He would do it here. Like I even know where he'd do it at. Like, he'd do it like where the bump out is over there. He would do it and he'd just look out, and
that's the Bob bump out.
that is, yeah. I mean,
I'm almost seeing like a statue over the edge here.
Yeah, you could just, and his, like, those, the Garcia ties, like they're kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Like, he'd have the off-brand versions of those because he'd never pay for a Garcia tie. He'd have the off-brand. So he'd have these loud pinstripe suit, not because he's flashy, just because that's, with this crazy, and like, I'm not, like, everyone makes fun of me because I wear a blue suit and white shirt every day. It's easy. It's like, I know it goes. The stuff he'd wear, I'd look at it and be like, does that match? And I don't know. Like, I have no idea. But he didn't care. He'd pull it off, and he'd make it work. And so.
What I think is cool is it's like this legacy of Bob Rohrman exists in not just your family, but with the team, with the stores that were built, and now it's like you get to take that legacy and continue it, and not only that, but like take it to the next level.
Yeah.
What are some things you're excited about, not only with this store, but with the group coming up, where you can take that legacy on to the next step?
I think the first thing that comes to my mind when you ask me that question is, it's just the opportunity. It is so hard to do what he did today again. It'd be such a challenge. Yeah. I mean, when I look at our portfolio of brands and stores, there is definitely a hierarchy of manufacturers. There just is, right? And we have great manufacturers. And to do that in the markets that we have, I mean, he just so set us up to really do whatever you want, So I think the first thing is an opportunity, like great opportunity. And then the next one is, I never want to get off of who my grandfather was. Like, he really is like a glue. Like, he kept the whole Rohrman family together. Like, the people that came out tonight didn't come out for me. They came out because of Bob Rohrman, and so, like, I don't ever want to lose that. Like, he was an originator, there never has been someone who owned Schaumburg Honda except Bob Rohrman. Like, he was the originating dealer, and that is true about 80% of our stores. Like, I can't really think of it. He only bought a couple stores. Like, he was the originating dealer principal, so, and that means something. Like, our Toyota store in Lafayette, we're the second oldest Toyota store in the state of Indiana. Our Kia store in Lafayette, our dealer number in Fort Wayne is 01. And then in Lafayette's 06. So, like, when Kia came to the United States, we were number 1 and 6 in the state of Indiana. So, like, he was an originator, and I want to take that forward. Like, we want to be originators off of what he originated, I guess. And so, the car business, what's changed is consumer experience. And we want to, like, even this store, we will be able to heighten the consumer experience of everyone that wants to buy a Honda or a used car from us. And I want to make it matter. Like, car dealership guy did a podcast and went live today. And I was reading some
good episode, by the way. I watched this more on the way here.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I read one of the comments. And
you shouldn't do that.
That's like the number one rule of this.
Well, a lot of them were great, but one of them, I'm about to say his name. I don't know who this guy is, but he goes, there's nothing today about consumer experience that makes people want to buy cars. It's because they need to buy a car and they show up to buy a car. And I just don't agree with that.
Yeah.
Did you look him up and like see what he does?
I did. He's in advertising on top of everything else.
No.
I knew there had to be something.
The guy that should be believing in it.
Yeah. And I'm just like, dude, you're just missing it. You know, it's like, it's all about consumer experience.
It's all
like,
about the experience.
The first time you come into a dealership, maybe it's because you needed a car. But the second and third and fourth time, and your friends and family and so on and so forth, it's because we want to set the bar so high in your experience that I don't need to advertise.
Yeah.
Because they're just like, oh, you want a Honda? Well, you should go to Schaumburg Honda. Like Russ Flips Whips, a great example, right? People, it makes that guy's statement completely false. Not even Rohrman, Russ Flips Whips proves him wrong. People travel to buy a Lincoln.
Yeah, across the country.
Across the country from Pittsburgh.
Well, when I
It's
came
nuts.
in here and you
Why?
think about the time
Experience.
you can spend here, especially in the winter, but just the amount of community space that you have here and being able to host the chamber or Rotary meetings. But people are going to want to come here just to walk around.
Yeah.
We heard about the idea of this museum, and it's such a family space that they're going to be building relationships with your team, and they're going to want to just spend time here.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
I think that is going to be a big change that we're going to see are these community-centric destination dealerships.
That's right.
And you are leading that change big time.
And that's, if we could put our stamp on something, I'd love to be the auto group that does that well.
Sure.
And it's like, I don't think I have that figured out yet. Like, what is that experience?
Sure.
And I think to some extent it's different at every store, but there's some things that are the same, and I know that people value their time more than anything. It's the greatest asset that
Time
we
and
can't
convenience.
make more. And convenience.
Yeah.
And so I don't know what it is, but I know that it all comes together with time and convenience. And it's like your experience will be so great, but you don't know we respect your time, and man, it was convenient.
Yeah.
And just to replicate that over and over again, and then you put that layer of culture on top of it. Because I really don't think that people buy cars today because of price.
Sure.
And
I'll even quote you from that episode that was released this morning.
Yeah.
If you want a Honda, you can drive a few miles and go to a different Honda store.
You can.
They have the same product. They're going to have it for the same price. But what is it that makes Schaumburg Honda different, right?
Yeah. It's the experience.
Yeah.
It's the culture. It's the interaction. It's, I think it's great when dealerships are so transparent that the best price is on our website.
Yeah.
And it's like, but then we just need to do a better job of explaining why that is to the consumer. And it's like, it is the best price, and here's our why behind doing it this way. And then, when we can connect with someone on that, they'll understand it. They'll be like, and they'll be like, thank you. I love that, and it's just, the problem is through the years, they've been accustomed to not having that experience where their walls are up. And, one thing I dislike so much is when I walk into a store and there's 7 salespeople by the front door, because it's intimidating. It's like,
I feel like I have to explain myself, but I'm just here to look at a car.
well, who do I talk to?
Yeah.
Because I'm looking at everyone, and I still remember 20 years ago when I was selling cars, some people would have fun with it, be like, who's the lucky one who gets me today?
Yeah.
And we gotta get away from that.
Yeah.
It's like, come on in, peruse around. We have stuff to see from old cars and the museum feel, and we want to build these spaces so it's like, hey, it's raining out. At our Lexus store, we have a huge kids play area. That is going to be a massive kids play area. It's just not in yet. It's going to be huge. When it's rainy out, it's packed. Because the moms and dads that know that we have it there, they know we don't care. Bring your kids and just chill out.
You know how clean it's going to be because it's a dealership as well?
Well,
Yeah. That's
So
right.
much better than a Chuck E. Cheese or anything
time.
indoor like that.
well, these types of stores, we don't have a night cleaning crew. It's 8 hours. We hire it. They work here 8 hours every single day, and their job is just to clean. Because it'll never be as clean as it is right now.
Sure.
And we want to try to keep it as close to it is now than ever. And we're not a Chuck E. Cheese, so we we don't want to deal with a mess in aisle 9. We just want to keep it clean.
Keep it clean all the time.
It's just always clean, so.
Yeah. But it's so cool to see that you guys are taking customer experience to the next level. And yes, your grandpa built a legacy for what he was, but it's so cool to see the last couple years you get to unroll that, and now like the future in 5-10 years of where you're going to be. And it's so cool to see your passion for that. Man, so Ryan, thank you so much for having us out here today. Thank you so much for your time and letting us be a part of this.
Thank you guys for coming out. I mean, this is
amazing.
What a neat experience. I hope it was cool for you guys too. It kind of like
it was such an honor getting to know you and your family, but your entire team. It's great to experience.
It's so much fun. I mean, it really is a fun, special night. I mean, seeing people who've impacted like my life for 20 years. I haven't seen some of these guys and gals. I mean, I ran into one of the sales guys. He was a stud. 2005, I'm selling cars. He's a 30-car guy, and I haven't seen him for 15 years. He looks the same to me. I'm just like, his name is Andre. I was like, Andre. He's like, Ryan. And it's like, what are you doing? He goes, I had to come. He goes, this was my home for 20 years. Down the road. He goes, I just had to come and see it. I'm just like, wow. I don't know. It's special. Special night.
It's just such a celebration, man. So thank you so much for having us out here.
Thank you guys for coming.